got a lively crowd here, it seems. My name is Anthony Mele. That's spelled M-E-L-E. Mele is the Italian word for apples. So I'd like for you to think of that when you go into the voting booth. Think of a nice, fresh apple, Mele. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running for the 17th Congressional District because they just won't let me run for president. So in the meantime, I'd like to let you know a little bit about me. I'm from the district. I'm born, bred, and raised in the Bronx, New York. I'm a product of our public schools. I went to Truro Tuscanini Junior High School in Teller Avenue. I went to Taft High School in the Bronx. I grew up in the shadow of Yankee Stadium. Please don't get me started on the Yankees. But I grew up there. I remember growing up on 161st Street where I worked as a youth corps member at the Bronx County Courthouse for Judge Barry Salmon. And I had my first taste of politics during those times. And I also attended the Holocaust Museum Memorial dinner last night, and it brought to me a memory I'd like to share with you. When I was growing up in the Bronx, there was a gentleman who ran a kosher butcher shop, Sam the Butcher, on 161st Street, right across the street from when you get the best knishes in the Bronx. And as a kid, I used to deliver these groceries. And on certain days, I guess obviously on the Sabbath days, I would deliver these groceries and these kosher meat. And there was a man I used to deliver to, and he would open up the door, and when he'd stick his arm out, he would just open up the door enough. He would stick his arm out to take the groceries and the meats. And he had a tattoo on his arm. And I was just a little kid. I was probably about maybe 11 or 12 years old. And so after a time getting to know him and delivering it, I asked him, "Oh, were you in the Navy?" Because in my child's mind, I thought tattoos signified someone was in the Navy. And he said, "You don't know what that means?" And I, "No, sir, I don't." And he brought me to his house, into his home, and opened up his photo album, and he taught me much about what happened. And I was a young man, and that stayed with me. So I must have been about 11 or 12, and I'm 52 years old now. And I've traveled the world as a veteran of the United States Army. I served 6.5 years in the Army. I worked in Israel. I lived and worked in Saudi Arabia. And I understand the importance of the state of Israel. I'm a global security specialist as a crisis manager and a specialist in counterterrorism. I teach about Wahhabism, about Islam. I teach about the extremism. I've lived it. And I understand that the state of Israel is the only place in that region of the world that shares the same values that we do. And it is ultimately important for us to defend the state of Israel as much as we defend ourselves and our own liberty. It is the only place where freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press exists in that region. It is not a monarchy like Saudi Arabia. And it's not an oligarchy and an extreme place as Syria and Iran. As much of us realize that the dangers of Iran and Persia in gaining the nuclear weapon would be a disaster. And I assure you, as your congressman, I have the understanding. I've held top secret community clearances, classifications. I understand the importance of ensuring that such an enemy never have such a devastating weapon in their possession. But I also want to share that the types of weapons that are in their hands in that region are chemical and biological in nature. And I assure you that I understand the significance of what it would be to ensure that those weapons never proliferate. And I have that understanding by experience. I'm a trained global crisis manager. And I assure you that I can take those skill sets and apply it to the Congress. I can take those skill sets and bring them with me to any committee seat today. I'm ready for that job today. And of jobs, I'm the only candidate in this race who has ever created a job. I'm a small business owner. I've been a small business owner for the duration of my working life. And when I left the Army, I opened up a security consulting firm, and I worked around the world. I worked in West Africa, I worked in Latin America, I worked in the Middle East, in areas of crisis management. And I look around my country, and I see us in crisis. And what I learned in the crisis management business, it's not about fixing the blame or who's to blame. I'm in the business of fixing the cause. And the cause of the crisis we find ourselves in economically is that we have a government that is addicted to kleptomania. They're addicted to overspending, overtaxing, and overreaching. And I assure you, it's going to take a common sense approach to try and rectify that. I'm the only candidate in this race who has ever offered any types of solutions to the problems that are confronting us and our young people and our small business community. I propose, using all the powers of persuasion at my command, and I will try to convince my colleagues in the Congress, after speaking with all the proprietors of the 17th Congressional District from one end of the Bronx to Rockland County, and to a proprietor, they have agreed that if they were permitted to opt out of the payroll tax, that 8% and their employees were permitted to opt out of that payroll tax in small businesses of 100 employees or less, they would reinvest that money into their businesses. They would reinvest that money into the hiring of at least one more employee that would help create revenue. Well, there are 1 million small businesses out there, and my business model can create 1 million jobs in one day. Thank you, sir. I can sum up in less than a minute. I can let you know that it takes common sense approaches to the problems that we have. And so what I'd like for you to think about is that why not put a hometown boy, why not put somebody, give it a fresh face. I have no argument with my political opponent, except that I disagree with the fact of followership when we need leadership. We need someone who represents the working man and not the tax man. And I hope to be that congressional representative for all of the people of the district, from one end to the other. And if I don't do my job, fire me in 2 years. Thank you. I'm open to any questions if you have any questions.